Okay. Good afternoon, folks. Thank you for coming to the second public engagement session for the Enger Golf Course renovation. My name is Todd Armbruster, the Parks Project Coordinator, and I'll be leading the renovation project for the city. Also on the call today is Jessica Peterson, the Parks and Recreation Manager, and Rob Hurd with Properties and Facilities Management, and Jessica Haig, Parks Administrative Specialist. She'll be coordinating questions and technical aspects for us. We also have our consultant team, Kevin Norby with Norby Golf Design as the primary consultant for the renovation. And we have Ryan Erspemer, Eleanor Brandt, and Tara Anderson with Architectural Resources, Inc. They'll be focusing on the clubhouse design. And we have Mike Cutler with Antares Golf analyzing the financial and business aspects of the course and renovation options and potential outcomes. My brief background related to golf, I've been playing since I was a kid, worked on a number of courses as a teen and throughout college and after college in different states and as an assistant superintendent. So I have familiarity with golf and golf course operations. Just to give you a background here, briefly, kind of agenda for today. I'll give a brief background on how we got to this point and some general scenarios we gave our consulting team to guide their work. Then I'll turn it over to them for some brief presentations, and then we'll have a question and answer session. We want to get feedback from you, so this is your chance to engage in that process. You'll be able to raise your hand using the raise hand icon to the right of your name in the participant window, and Jessica will call on you in turns, and you'll be able to state your name and address and ask your question, make your comment, and we'll give specifics. Again, I'll put the details up when we get to that point, so you don't have to remember these specifics at this time. Here's our public engagement meeting schedule. We had the May 18th public engagement a couple weeks ago. We're obviously at the June 1 today. And this is, like I said, a chance for you to engage with our staff and consulting team on what you'd like to see in this renovation, ask questions. The June 15th Public Golf Committee meeting will develop some initial findings, some draft concept plans to present to them. That's a bit more of a formal meeting. It's a subcommittee of our Parks and Rec Commission. And the members of the committee will engage with us, question and answers. The public is invited to that meeting as well, but will be limited to just comments during that meeting. It's a more formal process. And then depending on the outcome of that meeting, we may have an additional public engagement meeting if necessary. And we'll come back to the Public Golf Committee on July 20th with a final design and have them recommend that for the August 11th Parks and Rec Commission meeting. All the information for the renovation process can be found on the Enger Golf Course Renovation webpage listed there. There's also an online comment form available, so if you don't feel comfortable speaking, or if you know someone that couldn't make it, they can log in there and send a comment or question, and we will receive those. We can track comments and gets us more information for the planning process. So just briefly, the background, there's been numerous studies done over the past several years. I just highlighted a few here. Again, they're all on our website if you'd like to find out more information. But they were conducted under the direction of the Duluth Golf Citizen Advisory Committee. And essentially the findings indicated oversupply of golf holes in the city, reduced number of golfers, and golf infrastructure in poor condition. Since golf is an enterprise fund, it means golf revenues must support golf operations and renovations. And so based on the results of these studies, the city was faced with making a difficult but necessary decision to downsize golf and focus on improvements at Enger in order to preserve public golf in Duluth. So in one of those documents, the 2018 course assessment conducted by Kevin Norby, who's here with us today, it found a number of items that needed some sort of attention, and it listed 10 as the most critical items that are essential to continued use of the course at Enger. And the Public Golf Committee moved to have these items guide the renovation process at Enger in December of 2020. And you can see a number of the items are irrigation related, irrigation specific, water storage capacity, either through a new pond or a series of ponds that are existing on the course. And a clubhouse, the irrigation and clubhouse were the two worst items that, need replacement. Some other items were, fairway drainage and regrassing of back and middle nines, renovating bunkers on the back nine, and renovating or removing bunkers on the front and middle nine. Also constructing forward tees for improved playability, better access, easier use for folks. We realize that a lot of these items are infrastructure specific, so they don't have as much opportunity for planning, but others do have high priority for public engagement, and so that's why we want to hear from you. We're targeting a maximum of $4 million renovation for these most critical items. And most cities will pay for these kind of renovations through borrowing, such as revenue bonding, where city borrows the money and expectation that the renovations would increase revenues and profits enough to pay down the debt of that borrowing. In our case, the renovations probably won't produce enough revenue to pay for all of this with bonding, so we might have to look at the sale of some small council identified parcels at both courses for housing. We may look at co-investment by a management firm, and we'll be looking at community contributions as all sources of potential funding. To guide this renovation process, we gave the consulting team kind of 3 general scenarios to help guide their scope of work. We have some flexibility and obviously input from the public on each of these. They would all include, capital improvements to address course conditions, accessibility, safety, etc. Number 1 looks at the current course in its existing layout and the driving range in its current location. Number 2 would explore how we can have a 27-hole regulation course and relocated driving range on the north side of Skyline Parkway in order to accommodate a housing development on the current driving range. And the third would explore keeping an 18-hole regulation course with some sort of additional short course and a relocated driving range on the north side of Skyline Parkway, again, to accommodate a housing development on the existing driving range location. Whichever scenario is selected, renovations are planned in 2023 while the course is closed, and Lester Park would be open for 1 final year to accommodate golf play at that time. As far as the clubhouse, we have ARI, as I mentioned earlier. They'll be focusing on the clubhouse design, and that'll run concurrent with the golf course renovations. The basic functions, we obviously want to look at our pro shop, food and beverage of some sort, some outdoor seating, indoor seating, restroom storage. And we gave kind of the 2 general scenarios to guide their work, looking at a prefabricated modular structure to serve as the clubhouse, and also looking at converting the fairly new existing garage pavilion building to potentially serve as the clubhouse or some sort of supporting option. And we'll work closely with our business consultant on the size and the amenities the clubhouse has, since that'll have a direct correlation with business operations and financing. And to get some feedback, we'd like your input on potential clubhouse amenities. So we did set up a poll that we'd like you to take, and Jessica will put that in the chat box. There's a link you can go to, and we'd like you to rank your preferences of amenities from highest to lowest. This will help give us a better idea of what people are most interested in. We don't have a lot of funding to work with, so we kept it fairly simple, but these amenities were also suggested by the Public Golf Committee. There's also a link on the Enger Golf Course Renovation page. If you want to access it later, if you know of someone who would like to take this survey, we welcome your feedback. And while you're doing that, I'll just briefly introduce our consulting team and turn it over to them. So we'll be working closely with these folks as we move through the renovation process. And this is fairly common for public engagement processes that parks staff have undertaken on other parks projects. It's a little unique that we have the subcommittee of the Public Golf Committee to work with as well, but we have done that in other circumstances on trail projects and such, where we've worked with a subcommittee. So Kevin Norby with Norby Golf Course Design will be leading the project. As far as the course design layout, he also completed the 2018 assessment, as I mentioned, so he's familiar with the course. A subcontractor under him will be Irrigation Technologies, focusing on the irrigation system, controls, pump station, etc. They completed part of the 2018 assessment as well, so they're familiar with the course. And as I mentioned, we have ARI that'll be focusing on the clubhouse options, and Antares Golf will be focusing on the business analysis and finances. They're also part of our current golf management firm, so they have knowledge and information on the current operations of the course. So with that, I will turn it over to Kevin Norby and let him give you some background on the project and what he would like to share.
There we go. All right. Thank you, Todd. Well, this is an exciting project for us. I am born and raised in Minnesota and am familiar with Duluth golf, and I actually got my start in the golf business back in 1989 when I was working on a new golf course in on the North Shore up in Lutsen, so Superior National at Lutsen. And I'm familiar with Duluth golf. I think we all know that, you know, for decades, there's been a lack of capital infusion. These are such great golf courses with such great pieces of property. And Enger in particular has these fantastic views. And with 27 holes of golf, you know, I'm excited to see what we can do to sort of put these courses back on the map and generate the kind of rounds and revenue that allow us to continue to infuse some dollars into the golf course. And I think part of that for me, and you'll see this from our comments and recommendations in the 2018 study, a lot of this is just fixing, improving course conditions. It's a difficult place to grow grass with lack of topsoil and highly erodible soils. And so a lot of this is irrigation related. Some of this is drainage issues, particularly on the middle and the back nines. But it's also, I think, about making the course more accessible, more enjoyable, more fun for a wider variety of people. And so how do we go about getting kids introduced to the game, or for that matter, adults introduced to the game? And how do we make the course playable, fun, and fair for people who are aging and don't hit the ball as far or as accurately? So a lot of that has to do with widening the fairway corridors, improving turf conditions, looking at the placement of bunkers, and building, you know, new forward tees, sort of looking at the current placement of tees. So we have been looking at the plans and thinking about the plans, and haven't spent a lot of time redesigning the course yet, because we're really just waiting to hear more from the public on what they like and don't like and what their concerns are. But our plan is to then come up with 3 concepts, as Todd said, that look at how we go about renovating or modifying the golf course. And so I think with that, I would pass it on to whoever's next, or open it up for questions. Todd, however you want to do that.
Yeah, I think we'll go ahead with ARI, and then we can open it up to questions after they discuss the clubhouse.
Good afternoon. This is Ryan with Architectural Resources. Sorry, I was a little bit late here today. I think we'll just kind of run through, as we have probably heard here at this point, there is an existing clubhouse up at Enger, and we all have probably had a chance to see that at some point in time. As part of the conversation here, as we look forward, there are a number of challenges and difficulties with utilizing this existing clubhouse. So as you see going forward with most of the plans, the consideration of maintaining that existing clubhouse is kind of one that's not really on the table. It's just cost prohibitive to utilize that existing clubhouse for ongoing usage for a number of reasons. We just kind of want to talk through those a little bit for everybody today. I think that nothing is taken lightly in these situations. It's never fun to have to go a different route, but there are a number of issues with this facility, and there are some additional structures on the site that offer us some opportunities that we think are going to be beneficial to the community. So next slide. So one of the biggest challenges with this existing building is going to be access. Accessibility is a huge theme here. We heard in previous public engagement sessions, just how critical and how important that access for elderly people with disabilities and so forth. And I know Kevin mentioned it related to the golf course design itself as well, and trying to accommodate the needs of the greater public. And so as you can see in these couple of photos, there's a fair amount of deterioration here just with the regular access for those able-bodied individuals, but you'll also see kind of a 4-foot separation of grade in the finished floor. So there are definitely some challenges that we would have to overcome to utilize this building, and really it's just pretty difficult to do that. And once you get inside, space is tight as well. So you'll see that just access to the building is just really problematic, as well as the location on the site doesn't lend itself well to accessibility as far as access to parking and so forth. Next. Function. So as we look at this clubhouse, of course, it's really kind of a broken up space. It's very disjointed. There's separate areas all over the place. And for those of you that want to utilize these different things, sometimes there's benefits to being separate, but from the standpoint of maintenance, management, cleaning, becomes very difficult and time consuming, as well as creates safety and security issues. Requires additional staff to kind of monitor different areas and so forth. As well as you'll notice that there are functions that are on multiple levels of the building without accessibility, going back to that theme. You got food and beverage on this upper level. The basement level is in a position that where the lockers and so forth, and so access to those is really limited, as well as there's a fair amount of deferred maintenance, if you will, or just general condition issues. Lighting is really kind of poor in here, as well as, again, just circulation in general. Okay. The kitchen is obviously small and outdated. As we kind of push forward, and that's one of the questions I think as we try to prioritize, related to what the public really wants out of a clubhouse. We're looking at the kitchen and food and beverage portion of this is, yes, there's golf, but this is also a community facility. And so what is the needs of this kitchen? What are the anticipated expectations, I guess, as far as food and beverage goes? What would people like to have, see, use, to what level as well? Obviously money is an object, as was pointed out, but we do run into, limited usage just based on the current conditions of the kitchen and space, as well as the dining for that matter. Okay. Energy efficiency. So as this is a building that was built quite some time ago. It had a kind of a 3-season porch that was enclosed and turned into a pro shop. It's got inefficient windows. It's got inefficient mechanical systems. Again, these are just things that become deferred maintenance over time. And yes, they do wear out, they do fade. But no matter what happens and what we do to this building, we can't cost effectively take a building of this era and make it energy efficient and try to comply with what the goals of the city are as far as energy consumption and so forth. It's just lack of insulation, needs windows, needs roof, needs siding as well. So there's all kinds of different issues and challenges with this building. On the right hand side, you'll see a couple of old water heaters. They're definitely not an efficient style. The other thing is that being below grade, we do have a number of other challenges with this building. There is a number of water places where water's leaking into the building, etc., causing some other deterioration as well as just environmental challenges, I guess. Water's never a safe thing and never a fun thing to have in a building. So again, the issues add up as we go forward. Okay. So as you can see on this site here, and I'll let Eleanor take over here in a second, but down at the bottom is existing clubhouse. You can kind of see the proximity to the street and really just its proximity to everything. It's kind of just landlocked in there. What you do see though is 2 additional structures out to the rear of the building that actually open up the site a little bit. There's existing, I believe it's called the pavilion, but it's an enclosed building. Kind of set up as just an enclosure. It's not heated and so forth. And then there's also the starter shed that both are in pretty good condition and lend themselves to some opportunities. And I'll let Eleanor talk a little bit about that.
Sure, thanks, Ryan. Excuse me. So you can see, again, touching on access and issues with that. The parking is across the street from the clubhouse, and part of that, you can see kind of this walkway cutting across. All of the handicap parking is across as well. So no matter where you're coming to from your car, it's across the street, and you have to navigate, around the clubhouse because this main entrance is no longer accessible. So you have to come back and around somehow. You can see that, as Ryan mentioned, the existing clubhouse is kind of right up on the road. So there's a lot of noise sometimes from the traffic coming by. The pavilion / the shed in the back is one thing we'll be taking a look at with this and depending on what sort of desire for different activities are and what potential activities make sense in putting in this building. That's one thing we're taking a look at. So if you can flip to the next slide. So this is a view of the current pavilion / garage structure and the starter shed over across the way. One thing that we're looking at evaluating along with the sort of the redesign of the site around the building is the potential to fit some modular buildings in for, either temporary support facilities such as, food and beverage or restroom, or even, a modular type clubhouse. I'm sure we all kind of have this picture of modular as, the construction trailer, but that's not necessarily the case. But that's one potential option that's out there for the site. Part of the conversation is, if they're, and touching kind of on what Ryan said about energy efficiency, if there's a need and a community desire to have a year-round facility and what the support for that needs to be. So let's see if you can flip to the next slide. So here's another view of that. We've got all this great outside space in front of the pavilion, these great doors that open up inside. So there's a potential to really do a lot with that. One of the other nice things about this is it's all on grade. There's no step up into the building. It's all pretty flat and level, so that makes circulation and flow around this really easy. Same with the starter shed. everything back out here is at grade, and there's no real significant inclines to need to navigate. So I think it.
Okay, thank you, Ryan and Eleanor. Kevin? I think at this time we can open it up to questions. I'll let Jessica take over from here and kind of lead that process. Again, you use the raise hand icon to the right of your name if you'd like to speak, and she'll call on you and state your name and address. And please allow time for everyone, but I think we have a fairly small group here today, so we should have time to discuss. We can go from there.
Great, thank you, Todd. All right, let me pull up the attendee list and see. We don't have any hand raised icons yet, but I'll give it a few moments to see if anybody wishes to make a public comment. All right, we've got Susan Harney. Okay, Susan, you're live.
Hi, my name is Sue Harney, and I live in the Piedmont area, so I'm real close to Enger. And although it's kind of sad that Lester is going, it's going, apparently. So I want to be sure that Enger remains 27 full-length holes. We're losing 27 holes with Lester closing, and I don't like to see it become harder for leagues and other events to be held. They can take, and we've had a lot of events at Enger. We've had to cancel our ladies event that has become quite large. It's the largest ladies one around, except for the casino. And we canceled last year, of course, because of COVID. This year it was questionable, but it turned out we probably could have held it, but the conditions were such that we didn't want to be embarrassed. And so we'll hold off another year anyway. But I really want to see the 27 holes remain, and I really want to see the driving range located where it is. I want to maintain the properties. Those are my feelings, and my husband's also. And that's all I have to say.
Great, thank you, Susan. Do any panelists wish to respond?
Eleanor, if it's okay, Kevin Norby here, just looking for, maybe I can have Sue elaborate or clarify for me. So that's great. I understand you're looking for 27 holes of golf, and certainly that's easier and more profitable probably from a operation standpoint, so that I'm sure you're not going to get too much pushback on that. I thought I heard you say that you wanted the course left as is, and you said the driving range where it is. One of the things that I'm looking at is, as you know, one of the alternatives is to look at putting the driving range on the north side of the road, adjacent to the golf course and adjacent to the clubhouse. The challenge, of course, is that the driving range as is not big enough, wide enough, long enough. The conditions are not very good. They lose a lot of balls, which you would think isn't a big deal, but they're losing thousands of dollars in golf balls, I suspect. And then there's the safety issue of trying to get people across the road, and that may not be a huge issue today, but I would guess that that might become more of an issue as the course becomes more successful and traffic becomes more, heavier, I guess. So just looking for clarity, did you actually mean you really want to see the driving range where it's at? And if so, for what reason would you not look at putting it on the other side of the road if that was an option? Thank you.
Okay, basically, I don't want to see houses built there. I think it's part of the park system right around there with Enger Tower and the parking lot. And as far as, so I mean, I didn't want to, the other thing I didn't want to see was 18 full length, regulation holes and then a shorter course. I would rather see 27 regulation. That's
Okay, thank you.
so that events and everything. Parking where it is, been there for how many ever years it's been open, and it was busy. I think that it can be handled with lights, unless the only thing that would bring more traffic through there is if there was additional housing. Otherwise, it's mostly, it's not as much of a thoroughfare. It's a kind of a destination road. I know that's not altogether true, but I mean, it's not real heavy. And if we had even better flashing lights and crosswalk situations, that would help. But it's been that way for a very long time. I don't know about any accidents, so that's how I feel about it.
Great. Okay, that helps. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great, thank you, Susan and Kevin. Okay, we'll go back to the list and see if anyone else has public comments. We'll give it a couple moments. Oh, we've got another from Susan.
It's me again.
No problem.
I was looking at the one of the slides, the earlier slides, and it had to do with the survey. The option for the number of people for seating, yeah, thank you. It's 25 or 60. Usually with an event, we're looking at 100 people. And again, pretty much over the summer, you can plan on events happening, all along, just about every weekend you could. Now the pavilion has been able to serve the function of more people, holding more people in a kind of an open air sort of situation. If you're outside playing golf, you can sit out, kind of covered outdoor seating there. That works, but 25 people is really way too small, and 60, I think, still kind of short for indoor seating. And that's all I had.
Great, thank you, Susan.
Okay.
All right, we'll give it another couple moments to see if there's any additional comments. It looks like that's the last of it.
If anyone wants to, take the survey, and also you can submit comments online as well. Those come directly to us. So if you or anyone else wants to do that, please do. We value your feedback. Here's our meeting schedule again for the upcoming meetings. The next one will be June 15th. The Public Golf Committee, where we'll present some initial concept plans for them to review. if you'd like to join that. Public comments are welcome there. And after that, we'll determine if we need another public engagement meeting. If so, we'll spread the word about that and get that scheduled. We'll be following up with the Public Golf Committee July 20th for final design recommendations.
Todd, it looks like we've got a couple other public comments
Okay,
that came in.
great.
We've got Susan and Donald Farrell. Okay, if you could state your name and address for the record.
Susan and Donald Farrell, 1330 West 5th Street, Duluth, 55806. Our observation is when you speak of the building that it should be considered just to take the building down and start anew with a nice event center. Has that been discussed by the people working on this?
Yes, I think that this is Ryan with Architectural Resources. So yeah, as we've looked at this and it's kind of gone through a number of studies on that existing building, it's the cost to kind of bring that building into a condition that would be usable, you know, and meet the goals and objectives of kind of what the city has and what we've heard from the public to date, just isn't good use of public dollars. And so
Okay.
the intention is to look at alternative options, and I think that due to the dollar restraints that we have at this point in time, a brand new full-on event center isn't a viable option. But trying to work with the other structures that are there, and as I think Eleanor mentioned, some various forms of either modular or smaller scale structures to kind of accomplish the needs of the community for usage, you know, with the hopes that that could be built upon or grow in the future. So looking at kind of a scalable solution that can kind of meet the immediate needs with the potential to expand in the future.
Well, yeah, it seems that you to do just a minor adjustment, that facility has to be blown right out of there. It can't be renovated, and I think you're agreeable to that, but I don't know that you want to be short-sighted and put something in there it's temporary, so you're going to look at additional funding down the road to improve upon what should have been improved upon initially that we're talking about now. That's just a feeling I have, you know.
Brian, could you maybe speak to, or maybe Kevin, you could, to the length of time when we say a temporary or a modular structure? Generally speaking, what does that look like? Is it 3 years, 5 years, 10 years? You know, what is the longevity of the types of structures that you're exploring for us to replace the current clubhouse with? I think that might help the public understand what we intend to invest in and whether that is scalable into the future as well. So it is a smart resource investment for us.
I'll take a run at that, and Ryan, you can jump in too if you'd like. From a
Sure.
golf standpoint, a modular clubhouse, so again, sort of brings with connotations of a trailer house. But, you know, from a golf standpoint, this is actually really common. Many very good, very nice golf facilities utilize modular clubhouses. That's a double wide, triple wide, even a 4 wide structure initially, until they kind of get the course open and playable and get membership where they want it. And so a good example of that would be Chambers Bay, in which, you know, has held some very nice, very prestigious prestigious tournaments. You know, they still operate out of a modular clubhouse. The Ryder Cup, when it was in Minneapolis at Hazeltine. And during the PGA Championship, they had a number of modular structures there that were used for pro shop sales and restrooms and those sorts of things. Les Bolstead Golf Course right now is still operating out of a modular clubhouse, and they had really a situation that was very similar to what Enger has right now. It's a very old clubhouse. It was actually condemned. They were forced to level it, and they're operating out of a modular clubhouse. Meadowbrook Golf Course in Hopkins right now is operating out of a single wide, more of a trailer house like you might consider or envision. So I think the question about how long would that be is really a function of revenue, cash flow, expandability. And that's really maybe one of the beauties of these modular manufactured products, is that you could go in with a double wide unit. And I call them double wide because typically they are pre-manufactured and they are brought in and then assembled on site. But you could go in with, for instance, a single wide or a double wide initially, and then down the road could add on, let's say, more space for seating or dining or kitchen facilities. I had suggested at one of our internal meetings here the other day that, you know, there's a fairly limited budget to do all of these improvements for the golf course, the irrigation system, the clubhouse. And, you know, what we don't want to do is, for instance, put in a, you know, sort of a cut rate irrigation system only to come back later and wish that there had been more money spent, because that would be very difficult to add on. On the same note, we probably don't want to go in and put the irrigation system in without fixing the drainage issues that make for those spongy washboard fairways. And so some of the work, you know, has to be done before other work can be completed. One of the things that is fairly easy to expand upon or to implement over time would be the clubhouse. And so I think it could be a couple years, it could be 5 years, it could be 10 years or 20 years. It kind of depends on, you know, what the initial budget is, how far that's going to go to maybe addressing all of the goals or the other goals. And I think that, so that is open for discussion, and nobody's, I don't think I have any predetermined opinions about that, other than I just want to make sure we don't do some band-aid fixes on the golf course at the expense of having a nicer clubhouse initially, because that is one of the things that could be implemented over time. So Ryan, maybe you've got some thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I would just go on too. I mean, yeah, a lot of it's going to come down to operations and the abilities to generate revenue, but I think I don't want people to be confused by the modular piece of this. Really, all that means is it's built off site. And so what that does is it gives us some abilities for cost savings and cost reductions in that construction, just because it's more efficient. And we also have a limited window of construction here. So what that does allow for us to do is to bring it in pieces, much larger pieces than we normally would for construction. And in the current world we live in right now, with construction costs and everything the way that they're going, this is a pretty economical solution. A lot of the options with this modular don't have to look like a traditional, you know, trailer house, if you will. We can do a lot of different things with those modules. We can construct them a lot of different ways, and for all intents and purposes, they're built to be permanent structures. I mean, we're not necessarily going to park a trailer there on wheels. I don't think that that's necessarily the intention. I don't think the intention is to not have utilities or anything like that. So one of the challenges we have with the existing structures that are there outside of the main clubhouses is that there isn't water and sewer to those facilities. And so that's one of the limiting factors for ongoing use of those buildings. They can serve many functions, but restrooms and kitchens and things like that that need that water, those become problematic uses for that. And so the ability to bring something in and locate it where the clubhouse is, or in that general area where we have public utilities, gives us a lot of flexible options, I guess, going forward.
The other, well, this is maybe something good for Mike Cutler to weigh in on, because you're right, Ryan, it has a lot probably to do with operations. And, you know, there are places like Keller Golf Course in the Twin Cities that built a very large multi-million-dollar clubhouse, but then also built a small satellite pro shop, basically just enough space to have some merchandise, a small office, a couple of bathrooms, and a place to take, you know, money and sell, you know, sell merchandise. So that's something that could be as small as, you know, maybe 1,000 square feet or 1,200 square feet. But that wouldn't provide any sort of food and beverage. It wouldn't provide a location for golfers to, you know, sit and have a beer or a sandwich afterwards. But knowing that might be something that could be added in the future, I guess the question would be, you know, where do you draw the line? And I believe a good question for Mike to weigh in on, just your thoughts on operation. Is it important to have, and we all want room for golfers to around afterward. So Mike, yeah, jump in here. I'm answering the question for you.
Oh no, that's fine, Kevin. It's you know, you want to create spaces to engage the golfer before and after the round, or while they're at the driving range, etc. And also, you know, you can use it for programming. The one thing you want to be careful of is overbuilding. So this type of structure, a modular structure, allows you to add on as you grow into it, which I would highly encourage. We have multiple facilities with modular structures, 3,000 to 4,000 square feet, where they have a full bar that seats, you know, 50, and then the ability, golf shop, storage, et cetera, and then the ability to open up and flow out into 3-season space, so that when you have a group of 100 that Ms. Harney referenced, you have the ability to service the larger group all in one area, if you will. One of the facilities we have that's modular is in North New Jersey, where it's, you know, snow. Obviously, it's not Duluth weather, but it gets snow, it gets cold, and it's been there for 20 plus years. So there's a lot you can do with it. It's come a long ways, and it's a very can be very prudent in allowing you to grow into the appropriate size and scale, as opposed to building it and hoping they come, especially when you're on a budget.
Great, thank you, Mike. Susan and Donald, I see that your hand is still raised. I'll go ahead and unmute you if you have any additional comments. Hi, Susan and Donald, did you have any other comments?
No, we're fine.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, and then we've got Susan Harney. Okay, you're live.
Hi, I'm back. It's been very interesting talking about the modular possibilities. I think that it was well explained that they can actually even be more efficient in their construction, for putting everything together in a controlled environment, you know, all of that. But so site planning, I guess, would be important to allow for future, you know, potential thought, you know, ideas of adding on. And one of the ones that I don't know how large it is or how it was built, but the clubhouse at Hidden Greens in Solon Springs, That's a nice big, it's got a lot of room. And you know, with the bar and things open. That was one I thought of when you were talking about it. But actually my real thing is, how long is the survey open?
Thanks, Susan. Yeah, we'll keep the survey open at least another week or so.
Okay.
We want to get as much comment as possible, but we also need to develop some concept plans based on that information and keep the process moving forward. So.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
Okay, and then we had a comment come in from Mike Casey. Mike, did you have a public comment you wish to share? Oh, I guess not. Okay, we'll give it a couple other moments to see if anybody else has public comment. All right, nothing new.
Okay, thanks, Jessica. Well, with that, I guess we'll wrap it up for today. Again, if you know anyone that couldn't make it or you have additional comments, please log onto our website there and submit it. Submit them through the comment form. Take the survey for the clubhouse amenities. You can also email or call me if you have any additional questions or comments. And thank you for attendance today. Any other things the panelists would like to add today? Okay, well, I guess we'll call it a wrap there, and thank you for attending. Have a good day.